The stone is a stela that was probably set up in a temple. The text inscribed on it is a priestly decree that was issued in...
What if one of the world's most famous ancient stones quietly destroyed one of the most repeated arguments against the Bible without ever mentioning Christianity, Judaism, or Islam by name? Imagine discovering a monument that had been buried beneath the sands of Egypt for centuries, only for it to become one of the greatest archaeological breakthroughs in human history. It did not contain the 10 Commandments, it did not mention Jesus Christ, and it did not even tell the story of Moses. Yet this single stone transformed our understanding of the ancient world and unintentionally became one of the strongest pieces of evidence supporting the historical reliability of the biblical record. Today, many critics claim that the Bible was changed so many times that its original message has been permanently lost, while others argue that there is simply no reliable way of knowing what ancient civilizations actually wrote. However, what happened after the discovery of this remarkable stone changed the conversation forever in a way that very few people expected. Stay with us until the very end, because the evidence becomes even more astonishing as the story unfolds. Before we continue, please take a moment to subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications so you never miss our weekly explorations into biblical archaeology, ancient history, and the incredible discoveries that continue to illuminate the pages of Scripture. Long before explorers uncovered the Rosetta Stone beneath the Egyptian sands, the city of Jerusalem had already become one of history's most influential places. Its streets had witnessed kings, prophets, priests, conquerors, pilgrims, and ordinary families whose lives were woven into the biblical narrative. The temple stood as the spiritual heart of Israel, while scribes devoted countless hours to carefully copying sacred texts with extraordinary precision because they believed the words they preserved came from God Himself. Every letter mattered, every sentence was treated with reverence, and every generation understood that preserving these writings faithfully was a sacred responsibility rather than a casual task. Centuries passed, empires rose and fell, and Jerusalem experienced destruction, exile, and restoration. Even after the Romans devastated the city in the 1st century, Jewish communities scattered across the ancient world continued copying the Hebrew scriptures with remarkable consistency. This devotion to preserving ancient writings would later become incredibly significant when archaeology began uncovering forgotten civilizations across the Middle East. Everything changed in 1799, when French soldiers serving under Napoleon Bonaparte were strengthening a fort near the Egyptian town of Rosetta. While digging through the rubble, they uncovered an unusual black stone covered with inscriptions. At first glance, it seemed like just another ancient monument, but scholars quickly realized that it contained the same decree written 3 separate times. One section appeared in ancient Greek, a language scholars could already read with confidence. The second was written in Demotic, the everyday script used by ordinary Egyptians. The third consisted of mysterious Egyptian hieroglyphs, beautiful symbols that had remained undeciphered for nearly 1,500 years. For generations, historians had looked upon hieroglyphs almost like magical symbols, whose meanings had been forgotten forever. Entire temples, monuments, and tombs stood covered with writings that nobody could understand. Civilizations had left behind enormous libraries carved into stone, yet humanity had lost the key to reading them. The Rosetta Stone became that key. Using the familiar Greek text as a guide, brilliant scholars, including the French linguist Jean-François Champollion, slowly unlocked the mystery of Egyptian hieroglyphs. After years of painstaking study, the impossible became possible. Ancient Egypt had found its voice once again. Suddenly, inscriptions covering temples, royal monuments, statues, and papyrus scrolls could finally be read. Historians were no longer forced to rely on legends or speculation, because they could now examine what ancient Egyptians had actually written thousands of years earlier. This achievement transformed archaeology forever. Instead of guessing about the ancient world, researchers could compare written records from different civilizations with remarkable precision. Egyptian kings, military campaigns, religious practices, cities, taxes, and political events all emerged from silence into history. This is where the story becomes especially important. One common Islamic argument claims that the Bible's original message was corrupted beyond recognition, and that today's scriptures cannot be trusted because they supposedly changed over time. While that claim focuses primarily on biblical manuscripts, the Rosetta Stone indirectly challenges the broader assumption that ancient texts cannot be accurately recovered or verified. The Rosetta Stone demonstrated something profoundly important. Ancient writings can indeed be recovered, translated, and carefully compared using surviving evidence. Scholars do not simply invent translations or rely upon blind assumptions. They examine languages, inscriptions, manuscripts, and archaeological discoveries that constantly reinforce one another. Once Egyptian hieroglyphs became readable, remarkable discoveries connected to the biblical world could finally be understood with confidence. The Merneptah Stele, which contains the earliest known Egyptian reference to Israel, the inscriptions of Pharaoh Sheshonq I at the Karnak Temple, which record a military campaign corresponding to the biblical account in the days of King Rehoboam, along with numerous royal decrees, temple inscriptions, and historical records, suddenly became readable instead of remaining mysterious carvings. Archaeology repeatedly showed that the Bible accurately described many aspects of the ancient Near East that critics had once dismissed as legendary or fictional. Although the Rosetta Stone itself does not mention biblical events, it unlocked the language needed to read thousands of Egyptian inscriptions that illuminated the historical setting of the Old Testament. Rather than weakening confidence in ancient scripture, discoveries made possible through its decipherment consistently strengthened our understanding of the biblical world and demonstrated that ancient records can be preserved, recovered, and verified with remarkable accuracy. Perhaps that is the greatest lesson of the Rosetta Stone. It was never intended to defend the Bible, yet by unlocking an entire civilization, it strengthened our ability to test ancient history against the evidence. Instead of asking people to believe blindly, archaeology invites us to investigate, compare, and examine the surviving records for ourselves. The sands of Egypt concealed this extraordinary stone for centuries, but once it emerged into the light, it transformed humanity's understanding of the past forever. Sometimes history speaks loudest through the discoveries no one expected, and when it does, the truth often proves far more enduring than the doubts raised against it.